Okej, topp. Ja sam očekivao grupu malo veću i malo raznovrsnu, ali mislim da ovdje većina vas već ima software, jel? All right, so let's do this. By a show of hands, can you guys, who has a software company here that's running and has active customers?
Testing.
Testing? Okay, so who's running? Okay, half the room. Who's above $1 million ARR? Okay, one. Who's above 6 figures per year?
6 figures.
All right, who's above 10? And who has made $1? All right, so how many of you are pre-revenue? 1? Okay, the math doesn't check out, but all right. Okay, cool. The reason I'm asking is I'm trying to gauge the audience, so I know where to take this. The first part of the presentation, I'm going to explain to you guys who I am, and on that part, we'll cover one of my biggest lessons in life, which is not product market fit, it's actually founder market fit, right? And I think that's the first thing you need to solve before you go and do anything else, is you need to figure out which market you want to work in. I made a very costly mistake when I was 20 years old of going into the wrong industry, and I'll show you guys all of that right now, so it'll be fun. You get to watch me faceplant myself. Fun disclaimer, I've actually never really told this full story. This is the first time I actually get to talk about it, so thank you, Mihailo. All right, cool. Now, who here is in B2B SaaS?
Just B2B.
Just B2B?
Going to SaaS.
Okay, cool. Pretty much everybody. And what segment are you in? Who are you selling to?
I'm offering marketers for hire to business, but my model is agency, and I'm trying to make it SaaS, but it doesn't want to do it.
Okay, cool. And Toronto, what about you?
Selling to truck drivers.
Truck drivers, and is it a software?
Yeah, like we create white label software.
And you white label it, or you're white labeling it?
We are white labeling.
You are white labeling it. Okay, got it.
But we're still in experimentation, like it's early.
Cool. All right. Awesome. So it should be relevant to everybody. We got the group right. B2C is not my forte, although I did spend 2.5 years doing that. Okay, so, all right, well, let's get started, I guess. Oh yeah, one thing before we start. Fuck it, let's just start. Okay, cool. Who is Nick? So I was born in Montreal, Canada in 1999. I was supposed to be born in Serbia, samo što su padale bombe I onda Čale rekao Kevi bolje da se rodi u Kanadi, and therefore I was born in Canada. 3 years ago, right after COVID, I decided to come back to Serbia, and now I live here. So, how did my career start? My career started when I was 17 years old. Hey, what's up, guys? And I was your typical high school student, you know, mining crypto, trading stocks on his mom's account, you know, typical high school student. And then I met this guy, right, Alex Trin. My friend here, Alina, brought me to this school. She met him at an event and she was like, Nick, you need to meet this guy. It's gonna change your life, blah, blah, blah. I was 1 day away from booking my ticket to Serbia. And I said, all right, let me go to the event. Let's see what it's all about. I went to the event and I ended up staying. So that's the story. I spent my entire summer, you can see the date somewhere here. No, I removed it. 20 something of June. Went to my first class of this academy, which this 27-year-old guy started, to basically teach kids about real life skills like UX, UI, pitching, public speaking, all kinds of different stuff really, which he had learned, and he wanted to transfer that knowledge to us. So eternally grateful to this motherfucker. That's how I started my so-called career. That summer I had a couple assignments. One of them was to start a business. He didn't care what it was as long as it was a business. So I started making these bandanas, which you'll see in a next picture. And yeah, I manufactured bandanas and I sold like 3K worth of bandanas to people going to festivals and to dogs and their owners. And I tried a bunch of different niches. The dogs were the easier ones because you could just spot them on the street. You know, they're walking their dog and you're like, hey. So yeah, that's how it started. And 2 months into it, so this guy was a sales consultant, right? B2B SaaS sales consultant. He comes into your company, helps you go from 10 to 20 million, optimizes, your sales team, data, all that stuff. He needed a data analyst. He announced the job end of June, and every day I asked him probably 15 times, please give me the job, please give me the job, until he ran out of options. Nobody wanted the job. It was basically sitting in front of spreadsheets and correcting data for $15 an hour. And yeah, I got the job. On my first day at the job, I said, all right, I need to find something cool. And I started looking at data within the CRM. So I wasn't doing my job, right? I was doing other things than my job, but I found something really interesting. I found 750K worth of opportunities marked closed lost in the CRM, which weren't actually closed lost. When you read the emails that the customers had exchanged with the sales team, you could actually tell by reading the email that they were interested, right? So I made a report where I was like, hey, this secretary from this sales rep is marking this closed loss when it's not, blah, blah, blah. And the company was able to recuperate 300K from that in the following 6 weeks. And pretty much a week after my first day, I come into the office and they offered me a full-time job. And that's when I said, I'm dropping out for 30K a year, which in my head was like, in Canada, it's not much. You can't do much with 30K in Canada, but it was way more than the zero I was making in school. So to me, that was great. And this is the bandana, and that's me at 17. All right, so then I spent 2.5 years in B2B SaaS. I worked like a maniac, got promoted multiple times. I ended up having a team of 5 people. We built the RevOps department, helped the company go from 10 to 36 million ARR without scaling the sales team. That was a key thing. I was constantly looking for inefficiencies and basically automating processes like a maniac. I had 30-year-old PhDs in my team, which was very cool. My title ended up being Salesforce Wizard, and I was making about 80K at 19 years old. My car had a plate that said Tech Kid, and my iPhone has 890 results, which include a whiteboard. So that gives you a bit of an idea of who I am, where I come from. And this is what happened next. I was working in the finance department, automating the final piece, which is what happens after you close the deal, right? It's supposed to go into the ERP, and then you do a bunch of stuff there to work on retention. And I said, wait, they gave me access to the finance department, right? So I had access to all the numbers. I saw how much money the company was making, and I saw the net profit margin. I was like, I'm not gonna keep doing this. They're making way too much money. I need to go do my own thing. And this is when I started with side hustles. So this is me after signing my first $5,000 consulting client at 19 and a bunch of allergies. I also started a drop shipping business. We did a couple grand with that. I was swing trading options pretty profitably. I've been actually a trader for, it's gonna be 9 years now. And yeah, a bunch of other stuff really. I only included the screenshots I could find because no pic, no proof. And yeah, it was fun. And really I got tired of keyboards. I had a workshop in my basement on Oprava Srbenda. I like doing things with my hands. And yeah, just keyboards couldn't cut it anymore. And I got an opportunity to, well, I had a genius idea really. It was the month of February and the driveway, there was ice. You know, Canada, it's like a bunch of ice. And I destroyed my car on the ice. Like there was too much ice, and anyways, I had a low car. And so I was like, we need to start a snow removal company. We need to do snow removal better than everybody else. Fuck this tech stuff, let me start a snow removal company. And so I bought this, right? I bought a pickup truck. And the problem was it was February and snow melts in March, so I really liked the idea of becoming a redneck, but I couldn't start a snow removal company. I had to wait 6 months, and I'm very impatient, so I said, fuck that. Instead, let's do tires. And so I entered the infamous tire industry, right? Now I'm an automotive guy. And yeah, I spent $30K in 3 weeks, bought a trailer, all the equipment, and basically this was my new business. We would roll around in a red pickup truck around town and change people's tires. It was great. COVID hit. Literally, we're talking February 2020, March when I started the business. March 16th is supposed to be the start day of tire season. March 15th, government shuts down everything. So what do? COVID-19 disinfection. This took about 2 hours to brainstorm, and we sent a letter to the government using my lawyer, obviously, because I can't write for shit. And we were the only garage in Montreal that could operate. So we got thousands of customers. We were dressed like that, right? And we would go to your house, change your tires, and disinfect your car, right? So that was fun. Ended up scaling really nicely. This is what the new trucks looked like, right? Brand new $90,000 F-150s. This is what I looked like, very far away from the tech guy. And I was like Bob the Builder, you know, with the glasses and everything. And that was my life. We ran a bunch of viral ads. We had absolutely insane cost of acquisition. We even burned tires in my warehouse, and I had this guy from my high school throw tires and scream at the camera because that was just like great advertising, and people would hate on the comments all the time, but it worked. And yeah, I was a tech guy, so everything was automated, right? We had ManyChat on Facebook. You could book your tire change, schedule it. We had a live preview of where the truck was. If the truck was late, it sent you notifications on Facebook. You could pay through Facebook. Everything fully automated. And I also built an app for it because, you know, Facebook's not enough. You got to have an app. So I built that in like 2-3 weeks during the winter. And yeah, things were great until they weren't. So long story short, not to bore you guys with the details because this is not a presentation about the tire industry, I didn't really give a shit about cars. I really didn't care. I knew nobody in this industry. I was basically me fighting against status quo without understanding status quo or having anyone to talk to about it. I found that talking with mechanics was extremely boring and it didn't really do anything for me. I enjoyed spending my time making viral ads and making funnels and, you know, doing all this cool tech guy shit, keyboard stuff. I said I'm gonna leave the keyboard world, but really I was just keyboarding all the time. And our prices were way too low because I was priced to disrupt, right? The goal was to raise like $100 million Series A, and everything was about, you know, scaling trucks. At my peak, I had 30 employees. We had 4 trucks on the road, about $500,000 in equipment. And to top it all off, beyond these 3 things, which I could have dealt with, there was a black swan, COVID. Initially it was good for us, but eventually the government started handing out checks, right? COVID in Canada lasted 2 years. In Serbia it was like pičkin dim, right? 3 dana, rokaš malo policiju I gotova priča. In Canada that wasn't the case. We had curfew 10 p.m. that lasted 9 months. We had all these awful things happening. Interest rates going up, then going down, and it was awful, and the Canadian government was giving you $2K to stay home. So it was pretty much impossible to find a mechanic. Nobody wanted to do it, right? Because I pay them $20 an hour, 25. Even if I pay them 30, it's still easier to just sit at home. So that was the problem. I blew $500,000 trying to perfect this business model, and after 2.5 years of doing all kinds of different shit, I decided to shut it down. So, this is the story here. And as I was shutting it down, one of my friends was like, hey Nick, all this automation stuff you did for your business, that's super cool. How about you help us? Because they scaled. They went from 10K a month to $3 million ARR in their marketing agency, in about a year. And puzzalo essa su strano, non nisu znali gde bio, and they really needed help, someone to come in and systemize everything. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let me take a look at your CRM, your Monday.com. Oh, all right. And in my head, I was like, this is like a couple hundred hours, maybe 2-3 months, and it was. So I charged them $30,000. It was $150 per hour. They tried negotiating me down, and I said, you really want to do this yourself? And that was it. They paid it. So yeah, and I bought the domain db.io, and then I proceeded to make multiple 6 figures with this domain. So over the next year and a half, and this is how I got back into SaaS, right? Because this was not SaaS. This was consulting, right? Tech consulting, ops management, whatever. But through that, I got back into SaaS because doing all this different consulting, there was all kinds of different projects. And one of the lead acquisition channels I found, if anyone here runs a dev agency, I think it still works today, is bubble.io, right? Bubble's like a no-code platform. And back then they were blowing up. Everyone thought it was the future. Now we all think it's gonna go bankrupt. But yeah, they were getting thousands of RFPs per month. People essentially saying, hi, I have this SaaS that I want to build. I have a budget of 10K. I'm looking for a dev. So I built back before ChatGPT on top of OpenAI's API. Back then it was DaVinci 2.0. I built an autoresponder. So I was the only one sending automatic personalized responses within 10 minutes of them submitting their RFP. And that converted really well. Out of 700 RFPs I responded to, I got 70 calls, discovery calls, and I booked myself solid, about $300,000 in pipeline, out of which I closed about 100K in the first 3 months. And that kept me busy for about a year. So that's what I did. And this is where I found the problem, because I haven't built the slide for it, but essentially I built 12 SaaS MVPs for these people, these early stage founders who were non-technical, and 11 out of 12 failed, right? So then we're like, the year is end of 2023, and I'm thinking to myself, I love this stuff. I love building software. It's a lot of fun, but how come the failure rate is so high? So I started doing my research. And now it's like a fun fact for you guys. Did you know that 97% of innovations never make it to market? Did you guys know this stat?
No.
No? How fucking sad is it? Pretty much anyone who starts a marketing agency can go and sell their service. But the guy who spends 5-10 years working on this amazing transformational product or this crazy technology, 97% of the time it never sees the light of day, right? So I started doing my research. I became really, really passionate about this question of, okay, what would the planet look like if we knew how to take innovation and bring it to market? And I kind of went on this little bender of thinking to myself, and this is beyond B2B SaaS, it's more like what comes after it, at least for me. It's like, why is R&D so hard to commercialize, right? Why are disruptive ideas really, the more innovative it is, the harder it is to bring to market, right? So I started thinking about this, and this got me to start working on productmarketfit.io, right? I decided to focus on this word. I bought the domain. I said, all right, let me start interviewing founders and try to understand what are the correlations. So this is what I started doing. I've interviewed 350. My homework is to do 1,000 interviews. I'm probably gonna end up doing more, who knows. There's a lot of interviews which I did. We're probably past 1,000 where I haven't recorded it, but there's 350 recorded ones. And I'm trying to answer the question, what's the most efficient way to find product market fit in B2B SaaS? My assumption is if I can figure it out in something as specific as B2B SaaS, the same mechanics can be applied elsewhere on more important things, like, I don't know, recycling, or, I don't know, renewable technology or stuff like that, which actually has an impact. So I started researching this and did all these interviews. And I found a couple interesting things. The first one is, and there's a lot of research on this, you can actually look at startups like scientific experiments. And that's how I started looking at them. You have a question, right? Which is, I don't know, does LinkedIn outreach, can I message people randomly on LinkedIn automatically, and can that generate pipeline for a business, right? Maybe that's a hypothesis. And then you're gonna go through it, you're gonna try it out, right? You're gonna sell it to people, you're gonna put it to work, blah, blah, blah. And then you're gonna come at the end, you're gonna analyze your results, and you're gonna ask yourself the question, did it work? Yes or no? And every time you go back up there and you try again. And actually the whole process of finding product market fit, whether it's the product, the messaging, the pricing, you're constantly going in loops, really. You're looping around, solving every single one of your hypotheses. And this really helped me understand what my clients were doing wrong. Let's zoom out a little bit and go back, 2 years ago. I was taking on clients who were telling me, my great idea is a journal for stock option traders that's connected to TD Ameritrade, Robinhood, and all these platforms, where we automatically pull all the trade history, we analyze their trades, and we let them take notes. And I was like, yeah, that's so cool. That's the foundation for doing this afterwards and doing that. That could be huge. And none of us stopped to think, wait, before we pour in 400 hours and 20K into this idea, how about we go and interview 100 people? Nobody did that. They paid me 20 grand. I sat down in front of my computer. I designed the Figmas. I did all the stuff. We built this beautiful looking platform. It worked. It was integrated with TD Ameritrade. What the fuck? But nobody cared. Nobody cared. The guy whose idea it was, he even had a YouTube channel with 50,000 subscribers, all option traders. And still he wasn't able to go to market with it. I thought it was a sure shot. I even wanted 15% equity in the company. I was like, yo, this is perfect. It made about 150 bucks. Why? And this is the next step. I'm going to explain to you guys why. But essentially, what is winning, right? And this is where we have to really, I'm trying to reframe this for those of you guys who are actively working. I know for you, Luca, you're doing it right now. You're testing hypothesis by hypothesis, which we can talk about later. But essentially winning in the software game and in any business, the way that I want you to think about it is actually just validating your hypothesis, validating a hypothesis that creates economic value in the marketplace, right? If your hypothesis creates economic value in the marketplace and you can validate it, you just won a point, right? And your job is just stacking these points. So we're gonna go into stacking in a second. And now I wanna define failure. Failure is when you stop trying, okay? The moment your startup fails is not when you run out of money. It's not when customers tell you to fuck off. It's not when you get sued. It's when you, as a founder, decide to stop. What I want to present as an idea is that product market fit doesn't exist until you have it. And before you have product market fit, you have founder market fit. And as founder market fit eventually transitions into product market fit. Right now at my startup, I'm the only person who gives a shit. If I stop giving a shit about my market, the startup fails. Nick is in a different situation. If he stops caring about his market today and he goes to do something else, there's 30-something other people who care, and they will continue. And maybe it's going to be a rocky road, but in a year from now, it should be autopilot. And that's the difference. I want you guys to think about this. The founder market fit is the most important thing, and you don't lose until you stop trying. Okay, so that's my idea. Now, really in the software game, we're in a high risk, high reward environment. Okay, there's absolutely zero guarantees in this market. Okay, you should look at your early stage startup the same way you look at early stage cancer treatment. There's zero guarantees. Maybe your idea for a treatment is going to work. Maybe it's not going to work. What matters is that you want to solve cancer. That's what matters. As long as you keep focusing on solving cancer, you get one step closer every day. If you get hung up on the method, you're doomed to fail. Okay? There's no guarantees it's going to work. There's no guarantees you're going to get funded. There's definitely no guarantees that the market is going to adopt you. There's no guarantees you're going to get sued to death when you succeed. And there's no guarantees that regulators won't shut you down when you've got everything else figured out. It happens every week. A massive billion-dollar company gets shut down by regulators. Look at Google Chrome these days, right? It's a couple inches away from getting stolen from Google and given to OpenAI, and there's practically nothing they can do about it. So this is something you guys got to be aware of. And for everybody who just arrived, dobrodošli momci, my message is, if you're going to start a software company, you have to be absolutely crazy. Okay? You got to be willing to live like shit. You got to be willing to eat shit. You got to be willing to constantly get rejected for a very long period of time and see almost no impact on your personal life, even when the business starts doing well, right? Extremely high risk. I showed earlier, like I was 19 years old making $80K a year salary, plus I had all these side incomes that were, I had my whole life figured out, and I decided to quit it to start businesses. And today I make less money and I live less lavishly than I did when I was 19 years old, right? And that was fucking 6 years ago, right? So it's high risk, high reward. You get it right, you surf a wave, you make tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. But until then, be prepared to eat shit. And make sure that the market you pick fits you. If your market doesn't fit you, maybe you'll make it. But there's all these other factors which are constantly going to punch you, and they're going to test you, and you have to love the market you operate in, the people you work with. I didn't care about mechanics. I thought most of them were stupid. I'm a pretty humble guy. Like I don't have anything against mechanics. But for me working with them and talking to them on a daily, I had to hire guys out of jail because we had no more options. I'm serious. The government gave me guys out of jail. They were like, here you go. I was like, fuck me, bro. Where are all the 19-year-olds? Nobody wanted to do it. So pick a market you enjoy, right? I love working in tech. I understand tech. I understand the guys in tech. I know I played the same video games they played when they were 6 years old. I talk the language. I code. I do all of it. I don't care. I can be in tech for the rest of my life. It's no problem. I definitely could not have stayed in tires for the rest of my life. It would have been a problem. So I don't have all the pictures of what I looked like when I worked in tires. I should have added that now that I think about it, but it wasn't good. So this is an equation I want everybody to think about. It's super simple, but your job as a software founder is to look for minimum input, maximum validation. You call it output. Let's focus on validation, okay? And these are the stages of, oh shit. All right, fuck it. We'll just go step by step. So how do you validate your ideas? Okay, I'm gonna give you two different ways of doing it. One of them is the super easy way, right? So everybody here, if this is your first startup, don't do what I did, okay? If your parents don't have millions of dollars to back you, or you're not like an absolute genius at finding funding, don't do this, okay? Don't pick a blue ocean market. Does everybody understand what a blue ocean market is? Yes? Siguran, 100%. Okay, guys, a blue ocean market or a blue ocean technology is a technology that simply does not currently exist. Okay, it's something that you came up with in the shower and you were like, this is awesome, everybody's gonna love it. And you go out there and you're like, yo, what do you think of my idea? And everybody's like, yeah, it's great, right? And you're almost never gonna hear someone tell you this sucks. I try to be that guy. I try to be the guy that tells you, here are all the risks I see. I really try to be that guy. But most of the time, all your ideas sound amazing, even to me. And I'm consciously trying to tell you they suck, right? The blue ocean market is extremely hard. It's extremely competitive. This is where Silicon Valley hangs out, right? This is where OpenAI hung out 10, 15 years ago, right? This is what they were doing. They were like, oh, we're gonna just invest a bunch of money and we're gonna try to train these models and see what happens, right? We're gonna try to do image recognition. And all of a sudden, wow, LLMs can actually become intelligent. No way. And now it's like $1 trillion company. That is a blue ocean opportunity. Huge upfront investment, maximum reward, right? This is what you're looking at. If you wanna go compete in blue ocean, please be conscious of this. Also, sometimes you're gonna think something is purple ocean when it's actually not, okay? Before we go into purple ocean, red ocean, what is red ocean? Red ocean is a sector where the reason to call it red is because it's like blood in the water, right? It's like a bunch of people have already fought on this battlefield. There's like a bunch of sharks. They all bit the meat, you know, and it's bleeding. And that's why the water is red. That's why it's a red ocean. So a red ocean is a market where people have product market fit. If you copied their product, copied their pricing, copied their messaging, and went to market, you would find customers and you can build a profitable business. Can you build as profitable of a business as you could in a blue ocean market if you get it right? No, not a chance. But your risk has been minimized because other people have already figured out product market fit. And guys, a guy asked me the other day on LinkedIn, oh, what's the most efficient way to find product market fit? Copy everyone, copy somebody. Find someone who's killing it, like this guy, and just copy him, right? If you do that, and by the way, that's what he did, right? That's what he did. He tried getting smart with his first startup. He tried getting real smart, did something nobody was doing, and he ate shit. He almost went bankrupt. He almost blew all his cash. His team almost went back to work at McDonald's. And then he got serious and he realized, oh shit, wait, I can reduce the friction. I can go actually make a bunch of money by doing what these other guys are doing, just doing it better, selling it to a different group of people, penetrating a market that makes more sense than their market, but their market, because of their positioning doesn't allow them to go into this market, so let me just flip that.
But that's kind of a blue ocean.
It's not. Blue ocean is when the technology is new.
Blue ocean doesn't need to have anything with technology. It just needs to be.
It does in my definition.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's your.
Yeah. So the way that I look at it is like, you know, either the product is new or the market is new, right? And really, to go red or blue, you just have to have one of them be red. If one of them is red, it's red, right? You can take a red ocean product into a blue ocean market. That works. Taking a red ocean, you can't have a red ocean market with a blue ocean product, right? By definition, it's always product first, market later.
You're not gonna have a product market fit if you have blue ocean into red ocean.
Oh yeah, I mean I understand that, but I say that by just inventing a market with an existing product can be, by the definition.
But the market always exists, right? The market exists. You're inventing a product.
No, people exist, but the market can be invented with existing product. I mean, even in the book, they have examples of like the Cirque Solaire, where they invented basically the same people who are going to circuses. They just made a circus without animals, and it's by the definition a blue ocean strategy. In the book they say that. And then they make a bunch of other examples, but for other things. But the market itself can be a blue ocean. Even the product per se doesn't need to be like anything like a big innovation. It can be just a small increment in as you said, new positioning where you are like targeting a niche that was never targeted before for the similar product that exists somewhere else. It's a blue ocean. Even for example, blue ocean can be if I don't know you have India or I don't know some market, doesn't matter the market, some market which doesn't have something and you enter that market, it's a blue ocean for you.
Cool.
Because there is no sharks in that water. You are the only shark.
Makes sense. Yeah. So what I was talking about, which is I guess a little bit different, it's look, you're creating a new technology, right? You're creating a new product which serves a new purpose, right? And you're putting it in a market, right? It's a lot easier to do that if you're using an existing product and you're just shifting the market in which you want to put it, right? So that's my point, guys. But the ultimate easy thing you can do is copy somebody. Copy their market, copy their product, copy their pricing, copy their brand, their messaging. Fuck, just rip the whole thing, change the name, keep the logo like almost the same and just rock that. You know, that's probably the easiest thing you can do for a while.
Can you interrupt you just one time? Because
Yeah, sure.
I have a very good example. Have you heard about, I think it's called Dead Water or something like that?
No.
It's the guys are selling water.
Oh yeah, liquid death.
Liquid death. Yeah. So basically, it's like a prime example of blue ocean strategy. They're selling water. Everyone is selling water. Like Coca-Cola is selling water. So
Makes sense. But that's B2C, right? We're focused on B2B SaaS. Okay. So, all right. Then, does everybody understand the blue, the red? Okay. Now, there's this concept which is the purple, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing with face-to-face, right? We took something which exists. It's FaceTime calls, right? And we decided to put it on the website, okay? And we thought that this was purple, right? We thought it was purple. But when we actually started selling it and looking at the way people use it, a lot of people have no idea, right? The product is so simple. It's one click, you can call somebody and you can connect. But the businesses are not used to doing that, right? The businesses are used to having a chatbot. It's like a sync. There's like this AI thing that can auto respond to it. And when you're coming in, one thing that you have to be aware of, it's not just does your product, you have to break down the market, right? And look at, okay, like, do we have something that is red or purple in terms of the tooling, right? It's like the same tool, but does it also fit people's current processes? And do the people that use it know how to use this thing, right? So either one of these things, people, tools, process, right? Either one of these can swing you right back into a blue ocean, right? So you have to be careful about that when you're looking at minimizing your risk, right? So I went a bit off topic, but yeah, that's the thing. So super easy way. If you're absolutely batshit crazy and you want to go after a blue ocean, this is the method that I recommend. And I call this sell me a napkin, right? It's like sell me a pen, but it's sell me a napkin. This is what I did with face-to-face in the beginning. I went to a list of strangers. I scraped it from AppSumo, it was his idea. Went on AppSumo, scraped a bunch of guys, and I messaged them on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of launching my product on AppSumo. I would love to learn about your experience with them. Do you have 15 minutes to chat? And the response rate was like 30% yes, so we went on 10 calls. And out of 10 calls, I sold 3 of them, right? I pre-sold them a napkin. So what was on this napkin? It was a 3-slide Google Sheets presentation where I said, visitor comes on your website, you get notification in Slack, you see their screen, you click a button to call them, they pick up the call, et voila, you're talking to them inside your website, right? And they were like, wow, this is so cool, we can use this to upgrade people from free to paid. We can use it to close leads faster on the website, blah, 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 right? So we sold them this napkin. I collected my $100 and I said, all right, let me quit my 6-figure consulting career and let me fucking go all into this thing I just made $300 off. So that was the beginning. This is what I call the napkin idea. Now, one thing I would change from my own approach to the napkin idea is I would go even deeper on the consultative approach, right? I wouldn't just sell them a napkin for $100 and a lifetime license of the product. Maybe that can work, but if you're gonna do that, sell way more than 3, right? Sell like 100 of them. But if you're gonna sell the napkin idea for something that's more complex, right? I would go and I would charge it the same way you would build a consulting deal, right? You would get them on a call, pitch them the idea, then get them on a second call, and on that second call, you would present them something for 10, 20, 30K, right? And then you try to see what happens, right? And that's what I would have done differently if I had to go back in time. Today, the deals that we're closing, they're right around this number, right? I sent a $50,000 proposal the other day, and now we're waiting to see what happens. It's 500 times higher than my $100 napkin, but really the technology is pretty much the same. So I'm gonna go over what the difference is soon, but this is what I would have done differently if I had to go back in time. And I know for a lot of guys like you are working on banks, right? Selling tech to banks, don't cheap out, right? Really don't cheap out. It's, they take you more seriously when you charge more, and also it gives you the room for yourself to take yourself seriously, right? And build a better technology and spend more time on actually working the problem instead of just trying to close it as fast as possible. The second thing we did, which was, okay, you sell the napkin and what then, right? The second thing you do when you sell the napkin is you go and you build the product as fast as possible, right? So you sell the napkin, that was in my case, right? It's not a consulting deal, it's we have a product, it's $100 lifetime deal. We need to get rid of that as soon as possible. So the second thing we did was we sold it for $365 at $1 per day, right? So that was like 3.65 times higher than the $100, plus they were annual contracts, so we had a year to figure it out, and we could upsell them for a much higher price on the second year if we could get things right at the first one. So that was a much better approach. We sold about 50 of these, and that was like most of our revenue this year. So that's a napkin idea, right? You start from that and you push it up a little bit, and then when you understand the value of the product, when you have your case studies, then you can start selling it for way more. Or you flip it completely and you don't sell anything cheap, you just sell it as expensive as possible, and then you work your way back down from the up market, which is what I would suggest if you're selling something smart, which I think most of you guys are. So, okay. This is like how I see it, okay? At every step, we said it's a scientific process, right? So you're iterating over different areas of your business in concentric circles. So the 4 steps of validation in my book are the following. Step 1, sales, okay? Stop building anything, just sell it, all right? Sell the idea, get some sales. Will people pay for this stuff, okay? The second thing you're gonna be validating is the usage. Do people use it? You sold it, do they use it? For this, you need an MVP, right? So sale, first you send quotes. Then you build an MVP and you put the MVP in people's hands. I see you have an objection.
No.
Okay.
I have allergies. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Welcome to the club. And so then you build your thing, you get people to use it, okay? The third thing is you need to generate value. Right? And this is really the make it or break it moment for everybody. We had like 50 sales and nobody had any value from our product. Everybody was like, wow, congrats. Really, 50K ARR, wow, amazing. And then we're like, bro, what the fuck? Like 97% of the calls are going unanswered. What's happening, right? This is probably, I don't know about your product. I think the more blue your product is, the more this step, like the harder this step is. But really for us, this is the hardest one, right? It's getting people value, and then, so this is the first thing you want to solve, right? Value, or the one you really want to spend time focusing on. We had a lot of metrics for us when we were determining what is value. One of them was, oh, how many calls are they getting, right? Okay, cool, they're getting calls. And that's like our main value, like that's our main KPI even today. But the second one was, okay, how long are those calls? And do they answer them, right? Are the calls being picked up, right? So then the second metric is the number of minutes spent talking, right? We bill per minute. Obviously, the first thing before you spend a minute, people need to call you, right? And then when people call you, then you start metering the minutes. So it goes in that way, and you need to crack the calls first. If you don't, in our case, if you don't crack the calls, the minutes don't matter, right? I could be selling unlimited minutes today. If nobody's calling, who cares, right? So you have to solve in that order, right? Like go one by one, one by one. Maximize the metrics in the order that which they execute. All right, step 4, retention. Okay, so in our case, we're approaching our renewal cycle, right? So right now, a big portion of my energy over the next quarter is gonna go into, okay, out of the 50 something people that bought in, between Q4 and Q1, how many of them are gonna upgrade? Right, and this is gonna count as my first round of churn, right? Either it can be amazing, like we're at like 10% churn, or like life is good annual, or we get absolutely fucked, and I'm like 80% churn, and then any investor I go to is gonna be like, yeah, okay, cool, let's wait until next year, right? So this is an interesting piece because even if you got them value, it doesn't mean that they're gonna renew, right? So now you have to sit down and think, okay, well, does my product align with their long-term company vision? Do they see value from this? Does our feature set align with where they're going? You have to think not only about the immediate value of your product, but how does it work on a timeline with your customer's business, right? And then step 5, once you've solved these 4, you figure out scale, right? How big can this thing be? And it's interesting because when you're making your business plan, you're gonna start with scale, right? And then you're gonna work your way back. Or you're gonna start with value and then you're gonna go to scale and then you're gonna fill up the rest kind of quickly. Because the main 2 things you care about is like, okay, value, sales extrapolated from value, and then scale based on TAM, and that's kind of what your business plan looks like, right? But then when you get in the weeds of it, there's these 2 things, which is usage and retention, which are somewhat out of your control. You control price, you control what kind of value you give them, you can control how big the market is by picking the market, but you don't control are they gonna use it? And you don't control are they going, is it gonna align with their long-term strategy, right? So, yeah.
I wanted to ask, if we start from sales before you have an actual product, especially B2B, why would anyone take their time of day to even respond to your quote or take you seriously? I can do B2C, I can see that, like Kickstarter, people see a cool idea, give them like $20 and see what happens, but with B2B, like why would they even,
Yeah, great question. So,
where's the credibility?
does this talk about my product?
So you talk about the problem. You pitch the problem, not the product, right?
You're selling a solution. A solution entails a problem, right? So the difference between selling tools and selling solutions is tools are pieces of a solution, whereas a solution, well, it's a solution. It includes multiple tools, right? Or maybe just one, but usually it's multiple. And when you're selling solutions, the reason why you don't need a product is because you're not even going to talk about the product until you're a couple hours into the conversation with the prospect. So you can start by pitching them the solution, right? By surfacing the problem using your unique insights, which is something we're going to touch on a bit later. But yeah, so if you know that, for example, I know that these guys are missing $9 million a year in inbound pipeline because I've analyzed their numbers and I know the industry benchmarks, and I can derivate the amount of missed pipeline from the publicly available data, and then I can go to the CMO, the CRO, the CEO, the whole C-suite and be like, hey guys, did you know that you're missing $9 million per year in inbound pipeline? Like, these guys are on your website, they're shopping around, you're just not hearing from them. And yeah, you have all the identification tools and all this stuff, but so do your competitors. You know what your competitors don't have? Let me show you, right? And then you have a conversation, right? And then you can use that to build a case for a solution, right? And then your enterprise sales process really begins, where you're no longer talking about a tool. They don't care about your tool. And matter of fact, your entire company can go bankrupt tomorrow. You're still gonna have that guy as a client because he's still sold on this. He doesn't care what your tool is, right?
So does that mean you gotta do proper research for each client and kind of adapt the story to their use case, or can you be more general about industry problems?
Look, it's both, right? It really depends on. I think that as you start. Well, let me put it this way, right? Before you have your case studies, you have nothing to be general about, right? You can take general numbers from the market, but you have to correlate it to their numbers. And you have to do your job to essentially speak their language. Right? And if you can do that without looking at their specific numbers, then great. But typically, like I'm doing here, this is their form, this is their pipeline, this is from their interview with Latka, this is their year-over-year growth, it's not the industry average, right? And then I extrapolate the rest using industry averages, but I have my initial inputs from verified data about them, right? And that just increases it increases the likelihood of you even getting into that conversation and them taking you seriously enough for you to be able to present a case and build a case for the solution, right?
What if it's an industry where people are not so open with the numbers? Like in our case, it's the hospitality industry, festival industry, they're not so open when it comes to how much beer they sell, how many bartenders they have, etc.
Yeah, so, super interesting. Last year, Sviznate Institut Dedinje Kardiološki. So I met with a doctor from that institute, and he was like, hey, I'm working on this thing, I can't say what, but he was like, I need a business plan. We're gonna go raise a bunch of money from Srpski fond, blah, 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 and we need a market analysis of Serbian hospitals that are using this type of thing to do this type of measurement for cardiology patients. And I'm like, how am I gonna find that? And I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. Dring, 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 dring. I get my friend, he has a consulting agency, right? They come in and they do all this research. Public data, private data, they call up hospitals, they call up consultants that work for hospitals, and they found the data. Bro, it was like the most unlikely, I wouldn't know where to go. But these guys knew, and it took them 3 days. And we built this deck and we sold it for $7K, right? And that's what it is. Right? If you're going to be closing $50,000 contracts, then podrazumeva se that you should do your homework, no matter how costly or deep you have to dig. And that's really because when you enter, and now we're segueing into me going from selling $365 tooling to selling $50,000 solutions. What you're doing when you're selling solutions to enterprise, right? You are effectively building a case. The way that it works, the guy you talk to, even if he's the CEO, he has a whole team of people, right? He needs to convince this whole team of people that they should use your solution to solve this problem that you told them they had. So they need to agree that they have the problem, and everybody needs to be able to agree on that. If one guy is like, I'm not sure we have this problem, then you're fucked, right? Because then they don't want to take that risk. So you need to surface the problem. For that, you need data, right? They need to agree that they have this problem. For that, you need to communicate the data really well. And then you can actually begin proposing the solution to that problem. And then you need, even more data, right? And then you need models. And then you need some kind of proof that it works, right? Or extrapolate it from a different market if you've never had a case study. This is where this gets exponentially easier as you have case studies, because you can just say, oh yeah, we did it for this guy, right? Here's your problem, blah, blah, blah. They had the same problem. We did it for them, generated them $2 million. Want to do the same, right? My advice is don't skip the steps, okay? Don't skip the steps. Go this way. It's going to help you collect cash up front. If people don't pay you, you have nothing. Okay? You might have usage, but if the usage is not, if they're not willing to reciprocate that value with value from their side, if there's not a transaction, it's not, there's nothing there, right? Go this way, right? You can't prove value without usage, so you have to have that. You can't have retention if you're not delivering value. It's never gonna work. Like, I'd be very surprised to hear that somebody is renewing an annual contract they had a 0% ROI from. I've never heard of that, maybe, but I've never heard of it. And you can't scale something that doesn't retain, right? If your LTV, does everybody know what LTV is? Does somebody not know what LTV is? Lifetime value. It's essentially how long does your customer stay with you, right? Multiplied by the price they pay per month, right? But really the most important piece is how long does somebody stay subscribed, right? Once you've done your first iteration, I read this amazing book, it's called Cadence. I read it like 5 years ago when I was trying to optimize my tire business. What their advice is in Cadence. In Cadence, it explains to you how you can take a bicycle repair shop and have it go from 100K per year to 700K per year in 2 years by doing small incremental optimizations on 7 key metrics, right? And every month you optimize one metric by 3 to 5%, 3 to 5% more profit, 3 to 5% more items sold, 3 to 5% more customers this month, 3 to 5% more blah, 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 and you go in a circle. And every month you optimize something in your business, and the compound effect, your business is doubling in profit every year, and you go from 100 to 700K pretty fucking quickly, right? So that's essentially the mechanism. And I didn't do a great job with illustrations, but this is what I suggest everyone does with their B2B SaaS as well, right? Solve sales first, do it in this order, and then look at what your strongest and your weakest links are and start patching them, right? Every quarter or every month, focus on one of these metrics, or if you have a team, you can focus on multiple, but essentially you're patching them one by one, right? And you're doing a really good job at systemizing, let's say, retention. Your retention sucks. So you're gonna implement some analytics, right? And you're gonna do all these little things. You're gonna get a success manager. Really what you're doing here is you're optimizing retention. And you have to be aware of that, right? Why are you optimizing retention? For a longer lifetime value, right? For people to stay with you longer so that you can scale more profitably, right? And then why are you increasing price, right? You're increasing price because there's a good delta between the value and the current price, right? The current price is lower than the value that you're providing by a considerable margin, so you know that you can increase the price, right? If I generate someone $300,000 in revenue and I charge them $365 for that result, that's cheap, right? You're gonna wanna charge, I don't know, Nick, what's a fair price?
I don't know, maybe we're underselling or something.
Typically 10% is a fair price, right? Whatever value you're generating, you can charge 10% of that. Generally, you won't have an issue with it, right? So that's how you wanna do it, right? You're looking at these numbers and going one by one. Eventually, you're gonna add features, your value is gonna increase, right? You're gonna focus on that first, you're gonna test it, does it really work? Once you know it works, then you go back and you increase price, right? My advice is do them one by one, right? And flywheel them one by one, one by one. That way you know what you're testing, what impact does it have on your business. Think of it like a scientific experiment, right? The scientist doesn't change 10 controls in every experiment. They change one per experiment. That way they know whether this impacted the experiment, yes or no, right? So that's my advice. I stopped here in terms of where I'm at with my presentation. So I want to hear your questions, guys. If somebody has some questions. Yes.
Okay. What if in the step first sales, you did some sales, but okay, according to my case, you got stuck in the model of direct sales. You're not making a SaaS, you're making an agency, and it's a big trap actually. You're starting to make service by hands, and never building a product. Do you know such same guys in your industry?
I mean, I think that this generally it's the same, like regardless of what you're selling, as long as it's subscription based and it goes on for a while. I think the model changes when you're selling a product, but I think that whether it's, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in services. I sell software.
Yeah, I do. Maybe one day.
This is like an interesting one. So about half the clients I had in my MVP days were agencies who wanted to build a software to productize their agency or as like an upsell for their agency work. And all my clients, nobody succeeded with it. But I know one guy who does this really well. And they actually don't sell software. You can't find their software online. You can't sign up for it. It's not a PLG. It's actually an infrastructure that you subscribe to as a result of hiring them to implement a solution in your business, right? And this is McKinsey-style software implementations. McKinsey, I don't know if you guys know, but they actually create tons of software. Tons, but it's all private. It's all running in the cloud, on their clouds, and you actually will never know about it, right? It's built specifically for certain niches, for certain customers, and they don't advertise it. What they do advertise is how they helped this company or that company generate an extra $200 million in revenue this year, or cut costs by X amount, or do whatever. And what's in the back end is software, but in the front end, it's a consulting solution. The beauty of doing this, and this is why we're doing it, is because when you're selling consulting, when you're selling a solution, there is no cap to what you can charge as long as you're within the value metric. And nobody can go on your website and say, oh, well, I see that this is $1,000 per month. Why are you quoting us 100K, right? You don't have to have that conversation because it's irrelevant. There's no price tag to your thing, right? The price tag is whatever you quote them. And they have nowhere to cross-reference that. And even if they talk to another customer, it doesn't check out necessarily. Yes?
Yeah, I agree with you. That's for like consulting, or for as your product is like a blue ocean. So basically you have a little to none competition for that particular product, except FaceTime or Google Meets or Zoom or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's completely blue.
Yeah. So basically it makes sense that there, but what if they can compare to a competition when you are not...
Give me an example. Let's play this game. I love it.
Okay, yeah, great. So basically, I will compare with the product that we are building. So basically, what we are building is kind of an ERP for e-commerce businesses. Basically, it automatize the operations in e-commerce plus analytics and stuff like that. And there are some substitutions which they can compare with. So when right now what we are doing, we are selling like a SaaS. So basically, this is like if you have 1,000 orders per month, 3,000 orders per month, plus etc. So tiers, that's it. You have pricing, that's it. And what you're suggesting is like, okay, I go with you. You're making like 5 million per year. We can optimize, I don't know, 500K, and we will charge you our software, I don't know, somewhere between 30 or 50K. Am I right?
So hold on, let's do this. Give me the one-liner explanation of what you guys do and for who.
We automatize operations for e-commerce. For
Meaning what? It's like 3PL?
No. Basically, we connect 3PL, we connect shipping carriers, we connect CMSs, we connect SMS and Viber and all the stuff. We connect Meta, TikTok. So we connect everything into our platform. You do the whole operation through our platform. You get all the statuses, you get all the workflows.
So you guys don't replace ShipStation, you integrate with ShipStation.
We integrate
Got it.
with ShipStation, we integrate with all the stuff. Currently we are working on Instagram. But yeah, that's the idea what you're saying.
Okay, cool. Well, I think this is like a perfect case because let's say my e-commerce is doing $15 million per year in sales. Okay, we're projected to do 30 next year. I don't want to fuck around. Okay, I'm not gonna go through your sales process. I'm gonna find your phone number. I'm gonna call you. And what's your name? Sorry. Ivan. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna be like, hi, Ivan. So look, I want to cut to the chase. Like I know you guys have all these features and all this stuff. It looks like it's pretty much what we need, but here's my specific situation, right? We sell in these geographies. We have this amount of SKUs. We have these providers. This is who we do business with. We have this special deal with FedEx and this special deal with DHL. In these specific cities, we use DHL. Here we use FedEx. And like blah, 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 blah. And we have this custom software that we made that we would need you to integrate with. And yeah, I'm just not sure that based on what I'm seeing on your website, like it doesn't sound like it's exactly what we need, although you're like 80% there. Can you clarify that for me, please? And then you would go like, oh yeah, I mean, you know, we actually do custom solutions, right? For businesses like yours. And then you would go on a call with him. You're like, do you have an hour to go over it with me? We're gonna tailor it to you guys. No problem, let's go on a call. And then you go on a call with him and then you ask him questions, right? You're like, currently, how much does it cost you guys to run the system for your e-commerce? Oh, it costs us $50,000. Oh, how much are you guys spending on ads? Are you properly tracking it? Do you know what oh, okay, cool. What's your current cost per acquisition? Okay, cool. What's your refund rate because of failed shipments? What's your blah, blah, blah? And you just go through all the metrics with him. And then you sit down with your team and you're like, okay guys, which metrics can we impact, right? And then you just make that sheet, right? And you're like 3% here, 10% here, 20% here, blah, blah, blah. And then you make the model. And on the next meeting, you come with your model and you tell the guy, hey, this is what we can do for you. We're gonna take all these things away from you. This is how much time your team needs to spend on it. This is what we're gonna do. This is the projected impact on your business. Now, here's the price. Here's the contract. Here's how we can reduce the risk for you guys. So we're actually gonna front load it with a month of deep dive discovery. We're gonna charge you $20,000, $30,000 for this. We're gonna sit down, analyze all your systems one by one, map out everything that's going on because we're not fucking around here. You guys are gonna be making $30 million next year. I wanna make sure that we make you an extra $3 million in profits, not cost you. We need to do this properly. You know, we're pros at what we do. We understand this space better than anybody else. So by paying us to sit down for 200 hours and map this out, you're really buying yourself an insurance policy. By the way, if you don't want to go with us after we're done with the plan, you can do it yourself. We're going to give you a full plan of everything you need to do, all your mappings, blah, blah, blah. You can build this on your own if you want. You can go see another vendor with our plan and they can take care of it for you. And then he's going to say like, okay, cool, let's do it. Because you just took away all the risk. You gave him value up front. You gave him more value than what he was expecting. You took the risk away from him and you're telling him we'll do we're a pro, right? We understand e-commerce operations. We'll do something we don't do for anybody else. We're gonna do a deep dive. My team's gonna take their time, we're gonna sit down, you're gonna pay us a bunch of money, and we're gonna use the top brains in our company to map out what the ultimate system looks like for you guys. Every inefficiency we can find, we're gonna patch it, right? Do you think you can sell that for 100K?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, because you gave me an idea how to enter the markets.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, but how long do you think somebody has to do consulting like this before they can actually like get into product-led growth and like just let the product do its thing without investing $200 per client? Or do you think to do like big B2B sales you have to have a consulting segment to your business?
If you're doing big B2B sales, you're essentially doing consulting. It depends what your contract size is. Like you can go into a red ocean and sell something more expensive if you're able to, like more expensive than what other companies are selling it for, if you can crack a better packaging, right? If like, let's say everybody in your space is charging $100 per user per month, and you come in and you say $2,000 a month unlimited users, sorry, I'm very creative here. You can essentially, anyone who's spending more than 2K per month, 2.1K per month on this solution is incentivized to do business with you against everybody else, right? And it's almost like a sure win every time if your solution delivers pretty much the same amount of value, right? The value equation just checks out. And you can PLG that. You can definitely PLG that, right? Much harder to PLG something where there is no red market, right? If they're not already spending money on this, then you need to find the problem, because the problem is not spend, right? When you're repackaging, and really what you're doing is giving them more value for the same amount of money, you're essentially just poaching demand away from other people, then you can PLG that. It's super easy because you're not talking about a problem they don't know they have, right? But when you're entering with a problem they don't know they have, then the consulting approach is, in my opinion, pretty much the only thing that can make your company successful. I've been fucking around in the low ticket PLG space for a year now, and it doesn't really work for our product, right? We're even though it's super easy, it's put a button on your website, people can call you. The problem is, and I didn't know that before I started, people that don't have a sales team of 5 people at least, they don't want to be called right away. They have other shit to do. They don't want to be disturbed in the middle of the day. They're not going to pick up, right? So I didn't think that. In my head when I started my business, I was like, oh, like anyone with anything to sell is going to be available 24/7 just like I would. And the truth is they won't, right? So by getting that assumption wrong, we, in French you say the word poireauter, which basically means zajebavali smo se u tom tržištu godinu dana. And thankfully, we had all kinds of different businesses come through our door, and we realized, oh, well, it works really well for businesses that have a lot of inbound, that's super interested, they want to talk to them, they have a product that's complex enough where you need to have someone talk to them in order to, like that increases the conversion rate, right? By having that consultative approach. And they have enough people on their team to take those calls, and the profit metric, like the value equation just makes sense. It's something they want to scale. So it's like a very specific type of business. Thankfully for us, like some of the biggest businesses are in that situation. And yeah, they have big inefficiencies because of that, because it's too hard to reach them. And yeah, so that's that.
Sorry, you said that you had, that like most of your clients were agencies that wanted to make a product?
When I was working, when I was doing the MVPs, about half of them.
Failed?
Yeah.
But then you made it later sound like it's a good thing, because then you can sell it as consultants. So what type of agencies were they, like why they failed, or because I am from a marketing agency background, so I would like to know that.
Yeah, again,
It's not always marketing, different type of
yeah. What they did wrong in retrospect, and I'm talking for the segment that I did business with, it's they built something that they thought, based on their insights, their agency insights, they thought that their insights were enough for them to build a successful software. And they didn't go actually sell this thing to the market before they built it, right? That's the major mistake they made. Because they hired me to build it, they spend 10K, 20K, whatever. And then after they spend that money, they go to the market and they try to sell their thing. And the truth is, like, cute thing, nobody cares, right? That's the truth. Their insights, they were good, but, and perhaps if they had done things the other way, they would have built a lot of momentum downstream, and then they could have taken that momentum up market with them, but they didn't do that, right? So that's my advice, is always start with sales. Start with sales before you write one line of code. And I know it's really hard. I code stuff for fun. Like every day I'll open Cursor and I'll just start coding stuff. I get it, but it's discipline. Sell first, build once you sold it. That's the equation.